everyone.
Good morning.
Morning.
Your will be done on earth as in heaven. Make full use of the present opportunity.
Give
Thanks every day for everything.
thanks.
Let's see. Betsy, you feel
Sure.
like reading the gospel reflection?
We cannot serve God and money. We cannot be slave to two masters. So we will enter by the narrow gate. The gate is wide that leads to perdition, and many go that way. But the gate of life is small. The road is narrow, and those who find it are few. If we want to be with Jesus, we must forget ourselves, carry our cross, and follow. If we want to save our life, we will lose it. But if we lose our life for Christ and for the gospel, we will save it. With us, it is impossible,
But not for God.
God. Only God can save.
Paul, would you like to read the epistle reflection?
Sure. In everything we do, in our troubles, difficulties, and hardships, we show we are God's servants by purity, patience, and kindness, by the Spirit and by our love, and by our message of truth. We show ourselves for what we are. We may seem poor, but we make many rich. We seem to have nothing, but we possess all that there is to have. I
thought that was going to fit perfectly. This is Matthew 23, 27 through 39. Quite a rant by Jesus. Who would like to read this? Maybe Ed?
Thanks. I'll do it. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which on the outside look beautiful, but inside they are full of the bones of the dead and of all kinds of filth. So you also on the outside look righteous to others, but inside you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the graves of the righteous. And you say, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would not have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Thus you testify against yourselves that you are descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your ancestors. You snakes, you brood of vipers, how can you escape being sentenced to hell? Therefore I send you prophets, sages, and scribes, some of whom you will kill and crucify, and some you will flog in your synagogues and pursue from town to town, so that upon you may come all the righteous blood shed on earth, from the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly I tell you, all this will come upon this generation. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you. See, your house is left to you, desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.
Wow. So I looked at some of the commentary on this and none of it really spoke to me. And I started thinking about a time when my son was, he had done something kind of stupid, and he was young, and I wasn't that angry, but I wanted him to know that I was angry. So and I loved him so much. I didn't want to repeat this. I didn't want him to repeat anything like this. So I lit into him, and I was a little bit acting and, giving him what he needed. So it kind of reminded me of that. Anybody have any other feelings about Jesus's rant here?
How to win friends and influence your enemies.
Well, when he was ranting against them killing the prophets and all that, and thinking they were, his ancestors killing the prophets, it just reminded me of the reparations movement now. How people say, well, I wasn't around during slavery, I had nothing to do with that, and not taking on any
Responsibility.
burden of that, just reminded me of how it's easy to say, I had nothing to do with that, when actually a lot of people are gleaning all the advantages of slavery and the Jim Crow era and all that.
And now.
Yeah. It reminded me of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Fill up then the measure of your ancestors.
Say that again, please.
That statement, fill up then the measure of your ancestors.
Yeah.
When I hear this, I always think of the song in Godspell where Jesus is
Alas,
confronting
alas for you, lawyers and Pharisees. Yeah, we should sing
that you are.
hypocrites. Yeah.
Mm.
I wonder if this was cathartic for Jesus.
Mm.
I was just thinking, he must have had a lot on his mind when he was saying all this.
And maybe he's feeling a sense of urgency, like his time is coming. He doesn't have much more time. And
Mm-hmm.
I forget.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But again, we have to remember the context here. Matthew is writing to a community in Antioch of Jewish Christians who have been put out of the synagogue, who are separated from, and maybe even experiencing some condemnation, some persecution from the zealous Jewish authorities, the keepers of the law. And so Jesus's words here that Matthew is writing are going to really resonate with them. That, yeah, okay, you're a brood of vipers. Don't like you very much.
Yeah.
Connie, your story about your son made me think of having a small child crossing a street, and how if a child started to step out in the street, even though you knew you could catch them, you would react strongly and stop them.
Mm-hmm.
You would make a point of it.
Right.
I mean, who wouldn't do that for a child?
Good enough.
So there's two things that come to mind. First of all, it makes me wonder if we are actually going to be judged according to the works of our ancestors. That's the first thing. And the second thing is when he says, "How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood?" It sounds like he really is longing to care for us. And that's my two thoughts on it.
Well, I thought it would be fun to take a look at the message. Someone at the cathedral preached on the message this past Sunday, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, just another version. And I'm wondering if someone would like to read it with. Maybe we could break it down. Actually, let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 parts to this. We'll read it with some acting chops. So who would like to do a little acting? Maybe Robert, you can take the first part. What do you think?
Sure.
Jeannie, you want to take one?
Sure.
Mike, you want to take the next? The snakes? And then let's see, who's there? Bill? And Carolyn?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Now, acting can be very cathartic, so let her rip. Go. Action.
You're hopeless, you religion scholars and Pharisees. Frauds. You're like manicured grave plots, grass clipped and the flowers bright, but 6 feet down it's all rotting bones and worm-eaten flesh. Please look at you and think people look at you and think you're saints, but beneath the skin you're total frauds.
You're hopeless, you religious scholars and Pharisees, frauds. You build granite tombs for your prophets and marble monuments for your saints. And you say that if you had lived in the days of your ancestors, no blood would have been on your hands. Protest too much. You're cut from the same cloth as those murderers and daily add to the death count.
Snakes, reptilian sneaks. Do you think you can worm your way out of this? Never have to pay the piper. It's on account of people like you that I send prophets and wise guides and scholars. Generation after generation, and generation after generation, you treat them like dirt, greeting them with your lynch mobs, hounding them with abuse.
You can't squirm out of this. Every drop of righteous blood ever spilled on this earth, beginning with the blood of that good man Abel, right down to the blood of Zechariah, Berechiah's son, whom you murdered at his prayers, is on your head. All this, I'm telling you, is coming down on you, on your generation.
Jerusalem, Jerusalem, murderer of prophets, killer of the ones who brought you God's news. How often I've ached to embrace your children, the way a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you wouldn't let me. And now you're so desolate, nothing but a ghost town. What is there left to say? See this, I'm out of here soon. The next time you see me, you'll say, oh, God has blessed him. He's come, bringing God's rule.
That was excellent. That was so good, you guys. I've always wanted to direct.
That's somewhat of a different reading of it.
I love this. I'm out of here soon. I'm out of here. Okay.
Well, in the earlier, you say that if you had lived in the days of your ancestors, no blood would have been on your hands. You protest too much. You're cut from the same cloth as those murderers and daily add to the death count. Makes you want to go back and look at that in the standard translation again. See that, because
I think what he's saying there is you proclaim that you wouldn't have done what your ancestors did, but in fact, you're getting ready to crucify me. You've killed, you stood by while John the Baptist was killed. I think he's saying you're no different than your ancestors. You're guilty because of the sins of your ancestors, but you're no better than them.
You could have done it differently. You had the choice, didn't you?
How does this jive with other writings that he wanted to praise love and forgiveness?
Well, I think it is consistent with a lot of what Jesus has to say to the religious authorities. He's constantly calling out the leaders throughout the gospel on what they're saying to people and their and how they're treating people and the way they hold themselves accountable. So it's very consistent with that message of and this speaks to our religious leaders today, of all denominations and faiths. What are you teaching people? What exactly is your message that you're sending out to folks to follow?
We see this, I think, in some ways for the entitled behavior that a lot of white folks have, I think, and that's in society.
Do you think Jesus unconditionally loves these Pharisees and these people that he's talking so?
Yes, good
Yeah.
question.
Mhm.
Definitely. I'm sure that Jesus loved them as much as he loved everyone else, but he is calling them to account for their behavior and for their failed leadership.
And how they're going to operate in the future.
Tough
But
love.
it's not mentioned in this reading.
Okay, good stuff. Excellent acting. Okay, on to the prayers. Our Father, your will be done
And
on earth as in heaven. What are your prayers and thanksgivings today?
For Bunny, Mark, and Sydney.
pray for Ed and Betsy and Kathy and Dee and Sally.
For Ted,
For Sandy and her brother Kevin.
For all those who have died and their families. And for
For all
doctors
those,
and scientists working so hard.
those who are starting new chapters.
For teachers.
Creator of the universe, infinite and glorious, you give us laws to save us from our folly. Give us eyes to see your plan unfolding, your purpose emerging as the world is made. Give us courage to follow the truth, courage to go wherever you lead. Then we shall know blessings beyond our dreams. Then will your will be done. Almighty and everlasting God, we thank you that you have brought us safely to the beginning of this day. Keep us from falling into sin or running into danger, and guide us to do always what is right in your eyes. Holy and enabling Spirit, give wings to our morning prayers. May those we support and cherish with our love receive your grace to help them in their need. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Connie.
thank you, Connie.
Sure.